Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into a really fascinating, radically uncompromising philosophical text written by an author named Zhuo Feng back in June of 2025. It's the kind of text that demands a total, top-to-bottom reevaluation of exactly how we spend our time on Earth. It completely challenges the very foundation of human ambition as we know it. So let's dive right in and see exactly how this framework deconstructs our everyday lives.
He who does not plan for heaven is unfit to plan for a life. Now, this isn't just some casual piece of advice tossed out there. It actually establishes the central absolute premise of Shui Feng's entire worldview. According to the text, any life plan that doesn't have heaven as its ultimate deliberate destination, well, it's fundamentally flawed from the very beginning.
All right, let's unpack this in Section 1, Planning for Heaven, the core premise.
Consider this really stark metaphor of a fleeting blossom. Shui Feng argues that to actually live is to keep in mind, at literally every single moment, how to journey toward heaven. The text asserts that if, by the end of your life, you haven't set sail for heaven, then your entire earthly existence is just this vanishing illusion. It's compared to a dream that simply evaporates the second you wake up. Without this relentless, moment-to-moment focus on an upward journey, all earthly efforts, no matter how grand they seem to us, are considered completely in vain.
So, you might be wondering, what happens if we just ignore this? The author bluntly lists three very specific, severe consequences for just circling the human world: reincarnation, rebirth as an animal, or a descent into hell. If you just go around and around, sort of muddling through life in a drunken dream without actively stepping toward heaven, the outcomes are presented as incredibly severe. There's literally no neutral ground here. You're either actively stepping toward heaven, or you are spiraling toward one of these three fates.
Moving right along to Section 2, Illusions of Worldly Success, a Radical Paradigm Shift.
Okay, Shui Feng asks us to picture a fly discovering a pile of dung. To that fly, this is an incredibly great fortune, right? It's a massive cause for pride and celebration in the fly's world. Now, compare that to a human amassing billions in wealth or becoming a powerful politician. Shui Feng directly connects the two, which entirely neutralizes the prestige of human ambition. The text asks, fundamentally, how is the billionaire or the president essentially any different from the fly with its pile of waste if neither of them has a plan for heaven? It's a stark, completely uncompromising leveling of status.
And this builds into a total rejection of society's goals. Amassing billions in wealth, becoming a governor, a minister, or even a president, bringing glory to your ancestors, winning a Nobel Prize, or earning the admiration of millions of people. Shui Feng reiterates that if a person cannot ascend to heaven after death, every single one of those earthly achievements is merely an illusion. The crucial point to take away here is the sudden drop from these incredibly grand human milestones to total nothingness. It's all just another part of the dream.
This brings us to Section 3, the Yellow Millet Dream, the brevity of life.
So, the yellow millet dream is this classic Chinese idiom, and it perfectly illustrates the fleeting, illusory nature of human life, wealth, and status. It evokes the idea of experiencing an entire lifetime of massive success and bitter failure in just the brief amount of time it takes to cook a pot of millet, only to wake up and realize absolutely none of it was real. Shui Feng uses this to argue that life is incredibly short. Even if you live a perfectly peaceful life to the ripe old age of 80, it's still nothing more than this rapid, vanishing yellow millet dream. And for those who happen to die halfway through, it's even more fleeting.
And when that incredibly short dream ends, we face samsara, the continuous cycle of birth, death, and reincarnation, essentially returning to dust. The text argues that dying without actively seeking heaven guarantees a tragic fall right back into this endless spinning wheel. The author asks rhetorically, what pride or honor is there in that? Earthly longevity means absolutely nothing if it just leads you right back into the cycle.
Finally, let's look at Section 4, True Meaning of Wisdom, the Final Deconstruction.
The text puts it like this: if one cannot enter heaven, what wisdom is genuinely worth preaching? What cleverness is actually worthy of praise? We're seeing how Shui Feng entirely dismisses human intellect if it isn't strictly directed at salvation. According to the text, any display of intelligence, philosophy, or wit without a heavenly focus is reduced to mere self-amusement. It's just empty applause echoing in a hollow chamber, which totally strips away all the pride and honor we typically associate with worldly intelligence.
Now, I really want to highlight this specific, rather surprising scientific metaphor the author uses: complex nonsense.
The text argues that words that don't point the way to heaven are simply empty talk. But Xu Feng actually takes it a step further, stating that some people's secular philosophy and intellectual debate is just nonsense with a more complex molecular structure. No matter how sophisticated, intricate, or intellectually rigorous an earthly argument might be, if it doesn't lead upward, the author reduces it down to literal meaningless noise. It's just a more complicated arrangement of empty atoms.
If one cannot reach heaven, what is there left to compete for? Let that hang in the air for just a second. By systematically breaking down wealth, power, longevity, and even human intellect, Xu Feng leaves us with a total blank slate. If literally none of those earthly things matter, why are we fighting for them? The author's final stark warning is that to struggle and fight in this world without a plan for heaven is entirely pointless. It is, in Xu Feng's exact words, merely chasing the northwest wind. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. It's a heavy, challenging framework for sure, but one that certainly makes you step back and deeply question what truly holds value in your own life. So, what are you chasing? Until next time, keep learning.